Hi children, I'm back with another story about Christmas and Santa Claus. Did you know there are people who don't believe in Santa Claus? But there are some who strongly believe in Santa Claus. This is a story about both kinds of people. And the story is called They Didn't Believe in Santa Claus. Now, is everything ready? Called Santa Claus as he sat in his sleigh on Christmas Eve, holding the reins of his 4 reindeer. Is my sack quite full? Have I got my notebook with the children's names and addresses in? Yes, you've got everything, sir, said his servant. Better go now, or you will be late. The reindeer have just had a good meal and they'll be able to gallop well. So off went Santa Claus through the night. The reindeer galloped through the frosty air, high above the towns and villages, their bells jingling as they went. I've lost count of how many times I've been out like this on Christmas Eve now, said Santa Claus to himself. Is it 1,000 or 1,100 or even more? I just can't remember. He leaned down and looked at the town he was passing over. The things they have now that they didn't have in years gone by, he said. Aeroplanes, for instance, and those funny edge-shaped things on the roofs of some of the houses. What do they call them? Television masts. The reindeer galloped on, high above the roofs. Santa Claus looked at his list. He pulled at his reins as they came to a village. First call here, he said. Let's see now. Gladys Hills and Sheila Pratt, Bobby and Jean MacDonald, all good children who deserve to have their stockings full from top to toe. The reindeer landed gently on the roof of a house just by a chimney. In a trice, Santa Claus had disappeared down the chimney. One of the reindeer put his nose down to see where he had gone. The soot made him sneeze. He was a young one pulling the sleigh for the first time that Christmas. They soon left that village and went to another, and then on to a town. And here the accident happened. A princess had come to visit the town the day before, and a tall flag mast had been put up, with a flag right at the top. The flag still flew there, flapping in the wind. Now the young, new reindeer didn't know what a flag was. And when he saw this flapping thing high up in the air, he was terrified. He reared up and almost upset the sleigh. Now, cried Santa crossly. Behave yourself there. But the flag flapped again, and that was too much for the poor young reindeer. He reared again and then pulled away to the left, galloping with all his might, dragging the other 3 with him. Alas, when the sleigh tipped up for the second time, Santa Claus fell out. His sack didn't though. Somehow or the other, that stayed safely on the sleigh. The reindeer disappeared into the night, leaving Santa Claus on the roof of a cottage. He hadn't had far to fall, luckily. He sat there getting his breath. Here's a thing to happen, he said crossly. He wondered what to do. He felt for his whistle to whistle his reindeer back, but that had fallen off somewhere. Well, I must get down the chimney and ask for help, thought Santa. And down the chimney he went. It was a long chimney and landed him in a cold, empty, dark room. He stepped out onto a hearth rug, and at that very moment somebody switched on a light. An old man stood at the door, and behind him stood a fierce-looking old woman. The man held a poker and he came into the room holding it as if he was going to hit Santa Claus. "Hey, don't do that," said Santa in alarm. "Don't you know me? I'm Santa Claus." The old man snorted rudely. "Huh! What will you burglars think of next?" he said. "Dressing up like that and coming down the chimneys. I know what you've come for, to steal our silver." "Look here, I really am Santa Claus," said Santa. "Don't you believe me?" "No, as if we believe in Santa Claus at our age," said the old woman. "In fact, I don't believe I ever did." "Oh, you naughty storyteller," said Santa. "Just let me remember now. Weren't you once a little girl called Sarah Jane? And didn't I bring you a doll with black hair, blue eyes, and a dress with pink roses all over it?" "My name is Sarah Jane," said the old woman, looking surprised. "And yes, I do remember the doll. But you didn't bring it. My mother must have given it to me." "And isn't this your brother?" went on Santa. "Let me see. As far as I remember, he wasn't a very nice little boy. His name was Peter John, and I brought him a toy boat called Lucienne and a book called Eyes and No Eyes. Yes, I remember that clearly. Years and years ago it was." The old man lowered the poker and stared in surprise. "I don't know how you know all this," he said. "It is true. My name is Peter John, and I did have those things when I was a small boy. But it's no good trying to deceive me. You're no more Santa Claus than I am. You're a burglar, wearing a silly disguise. And what's more, I'm going to call the police." "Do," said Santa Claus, sitting down in a chair. "I shall probably know the policeman too. Do hurry up. Though, I simply must get my reindeer back and time's getting short. I've lots to do tonight." "Go and telephone Sarah Jane," said the old man to his sister, and she went into the hall. It wasn't long before a knocking came at the door, and two policemen walked in, one middle-aged and plump, the other young and shy. "Arrest this fellow," said the old man. "He broke into my house, down the chimney dressed up as Santa Claus. Pretends to know all about us, the fraud." Santa Claus got up and held out his hand to the plump, middle-aged policeman. "Why, if it isn't Harry Jones," he said. "Harry, you were one of the top children on my list 40 years ago, best boy in the village, and I was to bring you a railway train with a tunnel and a signal. I did too, with a station thrown in because I was pleased to hear about you." The burly policeman gasped. His eyes almost fell out of his head. "Sir," he said, "Sir, I haven't believed in you for years. Oh, that railway set. I never had such a wonderful Christmas in my life as I had when I got that railway. I wrote you a letter of thanks, sir." "I got it," said Santa Claus. "Nicely written too. And I know this young fellow here as well. Why, it can't be more than 12 years ago since I took him a Meccano set and a set of garden tools." 17 years, sir," said the young policeman, grinning all over his face. "Nicest presents I ever had, sir. I made my garden look lovely with those tools. I've still got the forks, sir." "You know, I had a letter this Christmas from a small boy called Bobby Brown," said Santa Claus, fishing in his enormous pocket. "You're called Bobby Brown too, aren't you? Any relation?" "Yes, sir. He's my little boy," said the big Bobby Brown, blushing red with delight. "What did he ask you for, sir?" "An aeroplane and a box of chocks," said Santa Claus, reading the letter. "I had them in my sack for him too." Now goodness knows if I'll be able to fill any stockings tonight with my reindeer gone off in a fright. The old man was listening to all this in a fine rage. He rapped the poker on the table. Police, do your duty. Surely you aren't taken in by this fella. You don't believe in Santa Claus, do you? Well, I didn't till I met him. Not since I was a kid, said Bobby Brown. But how can I help knowing it is Santa Claus, sir? He did bring us those things when we were children. We can't arrest him. We can only help him. Fine, said Santa. Have you got a police whistle on you? I've dropped my reindeer whistle, but I dare say yours would do as well. Yes, sir, said the young policeman eagerly, and he handed Santa Claus his whistle. Santa went to the window, opened it, and blew 3 long blasts on the whistle and 7 short ones. And in no time at all, the 5 watchers saw a shadow in the eastern sky and heard the sound of bells. The 4 reindeer landed on the roof and waited for their master. He disappeared up the chimney. Thank you, he said to the policeman. So glad you still believe in me. Sarah Jane and Peter John don't, though, poor things. They didn't, even though they had seen and heard him. They still didn't believe it was Santa Claus. What a pity. Little Bobby Brown got his aeroplane and his chalks. And will you believe it? The 2 policemen each got a little present too. A tiny figure of Santa Claus to put on top of their Christmas cakes. They were so pleased. I hope nothing happens to Santa Claus this Christmas, but if it does and he comes into your house, help him, won't you? He really is the jolliest, kindest old fellow anyone can meet. That is the end of the story, dear children. Hope you liked it and hope you continue to believe in Santa Claus. Good night.